What is up, YouTube? That's here, and today I'm bringing you guys a brand new top 10 list. We are going to be looking at the top 10 best Intimidate users in Pokemon. This is generally going to be geared more towards VGC, but a lot of these Pokemon carry over to singles as well, if they're legal in their respective formats. But yeah, we're mostly going to be taking a VGC look at this, and yeah, Intimidate, for those of you guys who don't know, it's probably the best ability in VGC. For those who don't know what it does, it lowers the attack of both of the opposing Pokemon. That's why it's so broken, and it makes it so a lot of your other Pokemon can like set up, and it minimizes damage, all that good stuff. Intimidate is by far like a staple in the VGC metagame, and most teams need to have at least one user, if not two. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be running down, my personal opinion, the top 10 best Intimidate users, and we're going to be going through a bunch of videos showing just Intimidate through the seasons. I have videos from like 2013, 2014, 2015, 2016. I'm going to be showing you guys as examples of how these Pokemon have been used in the past. So hopefully you guys like this sort of thing. We're going to hop right into it. Here we go. Alright, so we're going to be starting things off with number 10. Personally, I actually think Stu Raptor is the 10th best Intimidate user. Some of you guys might think Stu Raptor shouldn't even be on the list. Some of you guys might think that Stu Raptor isn't really used as an Intimidate user as much as just a final Gambit Pokemon, and that's why we're putting it at number 10th on the list. Personally, I actually think Stu Raptor should be a little bit higher, but the fact that all Stu Raptor sets are like a Choice Card Final Gambit set really makes it not as much of an Intimidate user as more of a suicide lead. Like, I remember using this guy back in Gen 4 singles. It was like one of the best leads in the game. You lead, you get an Intimidate, you can U-turn out safely. I like using a Choice Scarf Stu Raptor, but I'm not really a big fan of the Final Gambit set. So personally, like, I think Stu Raptor could be a little bit higher on the list if it was like, like a Tailwind Brave Bird set that also had Intimidate. Kind of using it as like a really, really bad Zapdos, but it has Tailwind, so it'd be okay. So we're gonna see like this Stu Raptor here. He's going for like the Final Gambit, and you can see why this is bad, because he's not even going to be able to KO my Salamence. So like, if you're going to use Stu Raptor like that, and just completely fodder it, like sure you got an Intimidate out, but it doesn't really matter. If you're going to use it like that, well, yeah, Stu Raptor's 10th, but if you're using it in other ways, being a little bit more creative, I think this Pokemon has a huge potential to just be amazing. And I want to know what you guys think about Stu Raptor. I want to know what you guys think about this whole list. Also, like, let me know if you guys think I missed anything. But Stu Raptor, being number 10, I think it's a solid pick, and I'm definitely excited to see more people experiment with that Pokemon. This is actually going to be a replay from a 2013 regional. Back in the day, you could save one of your replays, and I decided to save this one from Pleasanton regionals, I think. And this is Scrappy. We're going to be talking about Scrappy here. Scrappy's Intimidate's going to activate. And Scrappy, back in the day, there was like, you were on two sides, right? You picked Scrappy or Conkeldurr as your main fighting type, and a lot of people actually pick Conkeldurr, but I really liked Scrappy because Scrappy had that Intimidate, it had Fake Out. Like, Fake Out and Intimidate go so well together. You guys are going to see throughout this list, but Fake Out, Intimidate, two really good stabs for being aggressive. Like, Biting and Dark are just great stab moves, and also Scrappy, like back in the day, you're going to see me pop this in a couple turns, like, bro, I'm about to be holding this Dark Gem Scrappy, or like Z-Move Scrappy, or Torch 2015, like Assault Vest Scrappy, or even Eject Button Scrappy and like Perish Trap. This Pokemon has so many really, really good sets this thing can use, and I really just think that this Pokemon should be higher on this list, but as we start getting down to it, you're going to realize that Scrappy's more of a niche user, which makes him, definitely within the top 10, but more towards the lower end of it. So, sucks that Scrappy's not higher on the list, because he's definitely one of my favorites. He's probably in my top 3 favorite Intimidate users, but, unfortunately, he's just not tough enough to be able to crack the upper echelons. Alright, and moving on to number 8 at my list, we're actually going to be talking about Arcanine here, and some of you guys think, wow, Arcanine, the VGC 2017 king, how's it so low on your list? And it makes sense that it's this low on the list now that we have Incineroar to use, which is pretty busted, but Arcanine's still a really, really solid Intimidate user. I've actually been using it recently in VGC 2018 instead of Incineroar because it gets a couple different moves. It gets a recovery move in Morning Sun that Incineroar doesn't get, and it also doesn't have that fighting type weakness, which people are really starting to tech onto their teams to punish Incineroar. So Arcanine is always going to be a solid Intimidate user. I actually think I was the first person to ever top cut a regional with Arcanine back in 2015, back before it got broken and everyone just started using it. That's my Arcanine hipster showing, but I've always liked Arcanine. And the video you guys are watching, I think in this set I'm using like an Attract Arcanine, right? I'm using like Support Arcanine. I think the other Arcanine sets that I've really liked are like Will-O-Wisp sets. I've liked Morning Sun on almost all of my Arcanines for the past couple years. And even back in the day when I ran Arcanine, I ran, the one that I top cut the regional with was a weakness policy Arcanine. Like, you just think about that. Let that, like, settle in. Like, I would switch it in on a Rock Slide, intimidate the Landorus back in 2015, or intimidate the Earthquake user or whatever, because Arcanine has a few common weaknesses, but it's bulky enough to be able to live through things. And then just fire off +2 extreme speeds, +2 close combats, one-shot and Kangaskhan's, +2 Flare Blitz. You get the idea. Arcanine has so many unique sets, and we're not even talking about the sets that have evolved since Z-Moves came out. Like, Z-Moves came out, you can use like a Z-Move burn-up set, like a special Arcanine. It gets Snarl, it gets Roar, it gets Toxic, which I used a lot last season too. Arcanine is just a solid Pokemon, and I think it's actually going to be used a lot more as the 2018 season evolves. So, Arcanine, it sucks you're at number 8, but, you know, I'm sure you could go a little bit higher. Alright, so if we're talking about Pokemon that we're sad to see at the rank they're at, Gyarados at number 7. Bro, Gyarados is like the best Intimidate user, but it's just, it has so many weaknesses. Like, Gyarados is a Pokemon you 100% need to build your team around. And if you do build your team around it, make it a Gyarados team, this Pokemon will win you, like, so many games. It's such a niche Pokemon nowadays. And I love Gyarados. I love everything about it. It can use Z-Moves. It can use... This set is the set... this video is one where I'm using my Choice Scarf Gyarados that I top cut San Jose Regionals with, the same team with the Butterfree. This thing was so unique back then. It was one of the first times Gyarados... actually, it was like the first regional for the 2017 season. And, yeah, Choice Scarf Gyarados was so good. It had that really fast waterfall to be able to pick up KOs on the things that threaten your Tapus. This one had Flamethrower to be able to check Kartanas, because you know Kartana was big, and you know Gyarados ain't dealing with that. So we pick up KOs on Kartana, like, dude, that's so sick. Like, just being able to totally neuter the Kartana. And note that, like, he let Kartana muck. Like, that Intimidate was value. It provided so much unique support as an aggressive support mon. And I haven't even started to talk about the Gyarados sets from, like, 2015 that, like, Pickle Sword Matthew Greaves used that was, like, the Thunder Wave Taunt Bulk Citrus Gyarados. Like, Gyarados is so good, and even in singles, it transitions into singles. I used to use, like, a Rest Sleep Talk Dragon Dance Waterfall Gyarados with, like, full HP specialty. This Pokemon has such broken stats, but a very limited move pool in which it can express itself optimally. Like, it's pretty much locked into, like, you know, Waterfall, maybe Ice Fang, which is not optimal. It gets, like, Stone Edge, which isn't optimal. Earthquake, which is meh. So, like, it just doesn't have the right type of offensive moveset to be able to make it a broken Pokemon. But it is a very solid pick and definitely a fan favorite. And currently I have it at number 7, which just sucks because I think Gyarados is just the bee's knees. Gyarados is amazing. Alright, we're coming in with number 6 with a Pokemon a lot of people probably thought would be a lot higher on my list, and that's Hitmontop. Now, Hitmontop is like a World Championship level Pokemon. It's the go-to pick for Fake Out, Intimidate for a lot of the world's best players. And you're going to see this Hitmontop actually didn't Intimidate because I used the wrong one. But anyways, imagine an Intimidate was laid on the board. And Hitmontop's mostly known for using Intimidate, and I just forgot to Ability Capsule this one. But anyways, Hitmontop, yeah, totally good Pokemon. And the reason Hitmontop's good is because you're going to be able to make plays like these. We're going to see this guy led Breloom and Metagross, and I'm going to fake out the Breloom, right? I don't want to get spored, I don't want to get messed up by that. And then we're going to Discharge, so I'm going to use a move that hits all the mons on the board. We're gonna, I think we get a para on the Breloom. I don't even remember if I para my Hitmontop or how that works or whatever, yeah. But I'm gonna Eject Button. Eject Button Hitmontop is the standard item on this guy. It's gonna let you force out and come in with something that can actually let you really, really apply pressure. It's really good in Perish Trap teams. It works similar to Scrappy, but I feel Hitmontop has a little bit more usefulness because he doesn't share that 4 times weakness to Fairy. He's a little bit bulkier, and I think he gets moves like Feint and Wide Guard, which Scrappy doesn't. So that's what sets Hitmontop apart from Scrappy, and you can see like Hitmontop's like 3 places higher on the list because of it. So, you know, we got, well, if we would have got that Intimidate off, we'd be a lot healthier, but anyways, Metagross's Crowbite doesn't really matter. But you see, I was managed to bring in my Sceptile, and it's a good spot for me to be in. You know, I was fishing for discharges. I now have my Sweeper on the board, and I can just, you know, go to town from here. But Hitmontop being a very, very good mon, and we're going to see it skyrocket as Worlds comes closer in 28. So number 5, we're going to be talking about Manectric here. This is the first well, not the first, I guess Gyarados was technically the first Pokemon that could have Mega Evolved, but this is the first Pokemon that can Mega Evolve and gain Intimidate. So Manectric is really, really good. I used it a ton back in 2014, and I've used it in pretty much every format because I think it's just so good. So Manectric, the good thing about Manectric is you don't need to Mega Evolve with it. Like, this thing has Lightning Rod, so pair it next to a Melodic or something like that, and you can totally just sit there and Mega Evolve when you need to. In the first turn of this game, you let Hitmonchan and Scizor, and I just completely didn't Mega Evolve because I was like, I don't need to mitigate this damage. I'm just going to stay in my base form and, you know, Mega Evolve when something like a Salamence hits the board, and then, you know, get a real value Intimidate. Because now, look at, my Melodic finally got its competitive proc, and now he doesn't have the damage necessary, probably, to be able to KO. Like, I'm making so he has to, like, go for, like, Hyper Voices and other things like that if he wants to nuke my Melodic. So, Manectric is just a solid pick, like I said. It's so good in those Volt Turn teams. It's even better in singles. Like, in singles, I think this Pokemon just busted AF. And it's so fast. Like, in the VDC 2018 season, we're seeing Manectric's being used on that, like, I don't really know how to explain the team. But, you know, it's like Gothitelle, Celesteela, Snorlax team. It just comes in with Lando, they dual U-turn Volt Switch, and then Incineroar can come in, you get, like, multiple Intimidates, and you just fake out, and, you know, completely just mitigate every form of damage, thanks to your speed tiering, thanks to, like, all the offensive pressure Manectric can, express. So, definitely one of my favorite Megas, definitely one of my favorite Intimidate users. I wish it was a little bit higher on the list, but now that we're into the top 5, we're going to start looking at the actual broken Intimidate users. So here we go. So up next, we're going to be talking about Mewwhile. This thing is number 4 on my list. This thing is so good. It has Intimidate as its base form, and it's one of those Pokemon, it's kind of weird, it is incredibly weak as its base form. So in this turn, you can see I'm switching it in, which means I'm not going to have the stats from Mega Evolving, and I'm taking a little bit of a risk, but, you know, once you Mega Evolve with Mewwhile, it gains the huge power ability, doubling its attacks. That makes it so strong, and it gets incredibly bulky. And Mewwhile's a Pokemon that just commands total dominance. I almost want to say you have to tunnel on a Mewwhile because it can just one-shot almost any Pokemon. It has great defensive typing, amazing offensive typing, and access to moves like Sucker Punch. You can see this Mewwhile set that I'm using is from my January 2018 International Challenge, where I was using a Psych Up Mewwhile to, you know, take all the speed boost and attack boost from my Blissey and just, you know, completely roll people over. Like, Mewwhile gets even more broken when he gets, like, Dragon Dances, and that's something that you can't really walk away from. But this Pokemon's been good for years. In 2015, 2016, this Pokemon is just amazing. It's so good in Trick Room as well because it has such a low base speed. So Mewwhile probably should be in the top 3, but I know that Mewwhile has some glaring weaknesses. It's similar to Gyarados in that you need to build your team around it. It's not something you can splash into any team, in my opinion, but it's something that needs to have a little bit more support. But if you provide that support, it is the Pokemon that can win you a tournament. And then there were 3. We are going to be talking about Salamence, Mega Salamence. It's very similar to Mewwhile in that it starts with Intimidate as its base ability, and then when it Mega Evolves, it just becomes something completely different that can just win you all sorts of games. We're going to see I'm using a 2016 team as example where I decided not to Mega Evolve my Salamence because I wanted to switch it out for later, come back in and get another really useful Intimidate. Like, that's one of the things about Mewwhile and Salamence, and technically like Gyarados that set them apart from other Intimidate users. When you send them out, you don't have to Mega Evolve with them. You know, you just send them out, Intimidate, and if you don't have the right board, you can just switch them out, send them back in, and Intimidate again. Like, you get the double Intimidate value, and then they just become sweepers that are just so good, that have so much control over the board. And the reason I'm putting Salamence over Mewwhile in this example is just because Salamence is the type of Pokemon that can be splashed onto any team and most likely succeed. Like, Mewwhile needs to have a little bit of team synergy built around it. It needs to have some sort of, like, fire resistance or ground resistance. Like, if I want to use a Mewwhile, for example, I can't use something that's, like, also weak to ground or also weak to fire because I need to be able to switch out that Mewwhile. Like, Mewwhile Ferrothorn just won't work in the same team, whereas Salamence and Ferrothorn would totally work in the same team. The things that Salomences are weak to are a lot easier to mitigate. It's weak to, like, Ice, Fairy, Dragon. all you gotta do is really just throw like a steel Pokemon on your team, and you're probably gonna be fine versus all that. Versus having ground and fire weaknesses from Mewwhile, that's a lot harder to build around. A lot of Pokemon share those weaknesses, so it really limits your team building potential overall, in my opinion. That's just how I see it. So yeah, Salamence is pretty good. We're gonna fast forward this game. Oh dude, I just totally bodied that guy. Give me that Destiny. We're gonna fast forward this game until the Salamence comes back out. So I sent my Xerneas out, a couple more turns happen, and I'm going to withdraw the Groudon back for Salamence. It's going to show me getting another juicy Intimidate. Like, look how juicy that is. That's so much damage reduction coming out here, and it's going to make it so Pokemon like Xerneas can set up. It makes it so your teammates can set up, and Salamence is a sweeper in its own right. Like, this Pokemon gets just so much damage. It's just completely ridiculous. It gains Aerialate when it evolves, and I know they nerfed Aerialate, but like being able to slam huge double edges, being able to slam like huge hyper voices, and all the other things, like you saw I tailwinded in this game, and that totally let me steamroll it just a little bit. But yeah, Salamence is amazing, and it's kind of funny that I'm beating a Mewwhile with this Salamence, because I just talked about Salamence being better than Mewwhile. That's just how this replay happened to go down. But yeah, Salamence, definite top 3. And you guys are probably pretty sure what the next 2 are going to be. Alright, so we're talking about the top 2 here, and no Intimidate tier list is complete without the use of Landorus. This thing has been the Intimidate user as far back as I can remember. Since like 2013, this guy's been the best Intimidate user in the format, mostly because of his typing. Like, ground flying, that is some amazing typing. It's similar to Gyarados, but it's just so much better. It's just so much better. It's better in like every possible way than Gyarados, because he doesn't have that. He has an ice weakness, and ice is so much easier to mitigate than an electric weakness, in my opinion, just because I feel that the Pokemon that get Ice Beam are more commonly known than the Pokemon that get Thunderbolt, because literally everything can get Thunderbolt, but you know, there's a handful of Pokemon that get Ice Beam, and those that do are incredibly obvious, so it's easier to play around. Landorus has been one of the best Pokemon in the game for years. It gets, the most common sets are probably the Choice Scarf, the Assault Vest. Now Grandium is pretty popular, and there are also a few other sets, but like, Landorus, it's known as the Rock Slide Machine. This Pokemon takes people to Flinch Town. Throw your Choice Scarf on Landorus, walk yourself on a Rock Slide, and just pray that you can win the game. Get those juicy flinches, and that's what really sets it apart from something like Gyarados. Like, Gyarados doesn't get Rock Slide, it gets Stone Edge, so it can't realistically, you know, take people to that same flinch level. You saw I just totally just bodied that ho. 4 times Super Effect, we take those, don't even need to flinch, but I would've got it anyways. Landorus is a pretty broken mon, and it's probably going to be known overall in the history of Pokemon as the best Intimidate user, just because it has so many forms. We're also seeing special Landoruses come out now with like Earth Power, that Sludge Bomb to take out those Booloos. Some people still run U-Turn on it. U-Turn is definitely one of its better moves. And they just have, they also run like HP Ice to counter other Landoruses. It's just so broken, but it's not as broken as Incineroar. Incineroar, by far and away, best Intimidate user, in my opinion. Like, this Pokemon is just nuts. I'm surprised that we all still play the game that now that this Pokemon is out. This Pokemon is just so freaking broken. It gets Fake Out, it gets Intimidate, it can't get hit with Prankster because it's a Dark type. It has amazing Fire Dark offensive typing. This thing has so many useful sets. It can use 50% Fairies, it can use Z moves, it can use Assault Vest. I've seen Eject Button sets, I've seen a Sash set. Like, I've seen so many stupid sets on Incineroar. It gets such an amazing offensive move for like Fake Out, Knockoff, Stabbed Knockoff, Flare Blitz, Darkest Lariat, Snarl, Low Kick, Drain Punch. This thing, and it just came out, and this Pokemon's only gonna get better with time once people can realistically optimize sets. Like, we haven't really even seen any people try and set up with an Incineroar yet. Like, once people get how this Pokemon's gonna work, it's gonna completely break the game. And I hope this is like the last year that it's good, because we can assume next year is gonna be 2019 format's gonna be like the GS Cup, kind of like BGC 2016 Ubers. So hopefully, if people are using like Groudon and Kyogre, maybe Incineroar will be a little bit less used because it kind of loses to both of those. But man, this Pokemon is just so broken. I think this Pokemon is broken without Intimidate. Like, we haven't even really started to talk. I haven't even talked about why like Intimidate makes this Pokemon good. It's good without it. But yeah, like you saw in this game, I completely just body that Cresselia with the Z move, and I was intimidated, and I still did that much. It's just how much damage that actually does. But Incineroar makes it so any team can have that fire resist, can have that psychic resist, can have its typing is so offensive that it covers your defensive options. Like, sure, it has a ground and rock weakness, but it has Intimidate. And people that use ground and rock attacks, those are physical attacks, which means you're not really weak against it, in my opinion. Like, you are weak against it, but you're still going to be able to live through the damage and reply back with something that can probably one-shot those things. Like, you know, if people are using ground and rock attacks, they're probably going to take big damage from a Flare Blitz or a Drain Punch or, you know, what have you. Incineroar is so good, and that's my top 10 list. We got Stu Raptor, Scrappy, Arcanine, Gyarados, Hitmontop, Manectric, Mewwhile, Salamence, Landorus, Incineroar. I want to know if you think I missed any Pokemon. Are there ways you would move my list around? What is your personal top 10 Intimidate user list? Let me know in the comments below. And if you guys aren't subscribed to this channel, please subscribe to this channel. I'm making a ton of content getting ready for the new Pokemon games, and I'd like to take you guys on this journey with me. So I just want to say thank you guys for watching this video. Let me know what you guys think about it in the comments below, and I will see you guys next time. Peace out.